legislative update for LD7. Again, we try to do this once a week, usually on Saturdays. Got busy yesterday, so couldn't do it yesterday, so we're doing it today, legislative update for LD7. We have a large district, and as you know, Dave and I are trying to hit the road and get to different meetings, PC meetings, and sometimes it's pretty tough, particularly now since we are negotiating the budget. So, want to first say welcome to everybody, and also want to say happy Father's Day. I got to tell you, my kids called me. Ain't nothing like it in the world when your kids pick up the phone and call you, and they're doing good, and they're not calling to ask for money. That's a good thing. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things tonight, particularly what happened last week, the budget. Again, Representative Dave Marshall, he'll be joining us next week. Want to give a shout out to everybody that are working hard, getting ready for this new campaign season. Last week we had a mock session. We had some folks come down, enjoyed them coming down, but we didn't get to go to the floor because we had floor on Friday. So I want to give a shout out to them, and also we need to continue focusing on the key issues this week, last week, and then going forward. Everybody, I'm Walt Blackman. Let's go ahead and get started. I am looking forward to this live update with you all. So here's the deal, everybody. Last week we had a lot going on at the House. And if you've been sleeping under a rock, we've been actually working on the budget. Going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to give you some numbers that they're like at the 90,000 foot level as we go around the community, around the LD. Of course, we'll be putting out what particular projects came to LD7, the funding mechanisms forward. But today I just want to kind of touch on what we did for the budget, what was going on. Let me go ahead and open up my screen here. Let's see. All right. Let me do this. I'm trying to work this, everybody. Maybe I should put on my glasses. What do you think? I think I should put on my glasses. Let's see. I got it here for you. I have it here for you. I know I do. I know I do. I know I do. All right. So while I get ready to start, while I try to find this, I hope everybody had a great day today. I know I did. There we go. There we go. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and get into this. And this is this week's legislative update. I want to welcome you all here. Again, Representative Dave Marshall and myself, representing Legislative District 7. Dave is not here this evening. He will be here next week as we do this. So let's go ahead and get into this. We're going to first talk about the budget. And then the reason why it says FY28 on there, because it's forecasted. However, we do a budget once a year. And when we're talking about the process of the budget, there's really two pieces to it. This is how I go at it when we're looking at the budget. You know, we have a purpose, and then we have our priorities. And those priorities are the state priorities, for example, K through 12 funding, public safety, border security, roads, infrastructure projects. And then we have the budget process. The budget process is the developmental part of that. Ever since January, our chair, Representative Livingston, for Appropriations, has held small group meetings, small group budget meetings for all the members that showed up. And he went over the budget, talked about the projects going forward, talking about what we wanted to do as a House. So as a caucus, a Republican caucus, we wanted a streamlined budget. We wanted a conservative budget. We wanted to cut spending, no new taxes, no tax breaks for the rich, no tax breaks, period. Why? Because we have a lot coming forward this year or next year and the year after that. And we wanted to make sure that we had money in the bank, if you will, to pay for these essential services that we need. Now, looking at this year's budget, 2025 budget, as you can see, the beginning balance coming forward into this year was $1.37 billion with a B, ladies and gentlemen. The revenues for the budget, excuse about that, the revenues for the budget for this year are actually, the total budget is a little over $16 billion. I think we're somewhere between the high 17s, low 18s. That's some of the numbers that I've been looking at. However, to be safe, I'm saying 16.27 because we're still negotiating some of these things. The expenditures, though, is something you really need to take a look at and pay attention to. The expenditures will be 16.12, which is going to leave us with $170 million, one-time spending of $1.35 billion. That is the 90,000-foot level of the budget. Now, some of you may be saying, whoa, hold up, revenues are coming in at 16.27 and the expenditures are at 16.12. That's exactly right. That's why the Republican caucus, led by the Speaker, Steve Montenegro, wanted to do a streamlined budget that paid all our bills, kept the lights on, and made sure that the three pillars for the Republican caucus, public safety, from your door to the border, and also the American dream. We can't achieve these things if we are not making sure our budget is streamlined. It's a balanced, conservative budget. We passed that out of the House last week, and looks like we're going to be doing it again when the Senate brings their budget over to us this week. So yeah, going forward, we got that $170 million, maybe a little bit more on the ending balance, and that is something really to pay attention. When we're looking at the revenues versus the expenditures, kind of touched on to that. So these are some of the key component things we really need to pay for. We're looking at education, a little over, it's going to be closer to $8 billion. We're looking at the health and welfare services, as you will, $6 billion, public safety, $2.2 billion with that DPS raise baked into that part of the budget, infrastructure projects, roads, buildings, so on and so forth. That is what you will, when I say keeping the lights on, those are some of the bigger projects that we need to make sure that we are paying for. Now, as we go forward, we're going to make sure that on my websites and then when we do in person some of these town halls, we're going to make sure that you have a detailed of what the budget looks like in LD7. Of course, can't go around the state because there are other representatives that represent their district. However, but in LD7, we're going to make sure that we are taking the deep dive to some of this. Now, I often hear during campaign season, somebody that is running that has never been in office will sit back and say, they're spending like a bunch of drunken sailors. Okay, so here are some things we need to account for. Number one, we got to keep the lights on. Okay, that's a big thing. We also need to make sure that we are paying for public safety, that we are making sure that we maintain stable funding. And there are some things that we need to take account. And that is inflation, that is population growth, and that is where the federal dollars will come in or not come in. So with all that baked in, we need to be able to be flexible with our budget. The Republicans, we're not just up there spending dollars. Okay, it is quite the opposite, particularly with this last budget that we went through this last week. We worked very, very hard to streamline spending, cut government, not grow government, and to make sure that there were no new taxes in this. However, again, we have to take account of all those factors when we are conducting the budget. Now, you're welcome to say that we are spending like a bunch of drunken sailors. However, I would ask you, or I will tell you that if you really want to see how this is done, I've offered open doors at my office to talk about some of these things, and you can see where there are no drunken sailors. There are a bunch of hard-working Republicans that worked on this budget, and thankful for the leadership of Representative Chairman Livingston and the leadership team making sure that Arizonans had a good conservative fiscal budget, and that's it's something that really proud about. Now, before I go forward to some updates from last week, I want to let you know. So, usually when we are working on a budget, we have the governor working on their budget. We have the House and the Senate. We started off like that. However, it ended where the Senate and the governor's office was working on a budget, and the House was working on our budget. But communication broke, so we were working on ours alone, and they were working in conjunction with each other. Now, I don't know why that happened other than negotiations stopped. Okay, I'm not going to speculate on here why they stopped. I just know that they stopped, and we worked on our budget, and we got a good budget out. Now, typically, last week would have been sine die if we would have done it the traditional way that the House and Senate and executive usually work out their budget. You go back and forth, you give and take, and then bam, you have a budget. It's voted for in the House, goes over to the Senate. They may make some tweets. Bam, gets up, goes to the board, voted out of the Senate, and goes to the governor. The governor signs. Didn't happen that way, everybody. What happened was, as I told you, last week really should have been sine die. Now, this week, we will get the Senate budget and whatever they negotiated with the governor's office, and it will come over to the House. I believe the Senate's coming back into work either on Tuesday or Wednesday. And we're going to get a budget in the House that's going to be, wow, okay, what do we do with this? So it's going to be a big sandwich, if you will. However, it is something that I know we can work towards trying to find some negotiations, relieve some of those pressure points, and get a budget, a good budget out for Arizonans. So that is what you will see coming up this week. So again, last week's updates, we led and we passed out a $17.3 billion budget, and that was a conservative budget at 31 votes. All Republicans that were there voted yes. On June 13th, we passed this in the House again. It was a party line vote. Well, really, I'm not going to get into it. It was the Republicans passed it out of the House. And I'll get into the other thing later, okay? We really didn't have, last week when we ran our budget, the support from the Senate or the House. So again, negotiations are going to have to go forward. Okay, Axion, we know that they were part of the process, the legislative process this session. A lot of that negotiation, give and take, I'm sure circled around that you can find that in the Capitol Times. I put that link down there for folks if you want to see it. And it's just a lot of different things baked into it. And then again, last week we didn't have much support when we did our budget as Republicans. Now, as you know, we're going to be having ongoing negotiations this week. The Senate again is going to send over their budget. The clock is ticking, everybody, because July 1st, the fiscal year deadline is fast approaching. We need to make sure that House and Senate Republicans don't split on this one, and that we all come in together so we can allocate for these much needed projects that we are responsible for doing. As we also know, Speaker Montenegro and the Appropriations Chair over in the Senate, Reverend Senator Kavanaugh, they stood behind an approach to get the budget forward, moving forward with Representative Livingston, Chairman Livingston, at the beginning of the year. And we know that it just kind of blew up. Okay. And again, I am not going to speculate what happened there. However, we have some things going forward, Prop 123, and also continuing funding the K through 12 for next year coming up. Last week, also, Governor Hobbs vetoed a bill that was a Representative Way's bill, I believe. I think it was his bill. We passed the bill out, and the governor said she would veto it. So what the bill actually does, and I would encourage you to check that out. Teachers can't promote these things in their classrooms, and I don't know if teachers are doing that. I don't know, okay, because I'm not in every classroom. But this went out, again, Hobbs said she would veto it, and she did. So more to come on that one right there. So we also had something that came up last week. Crazy. Former State Representative Austin Smith. If you know Austin Smith, he was with Turning Point, I believe, and he withdrew from the race. This race coming up here. He was indicted. Wow. He was indicted for forging petition signatures. Now, I don't know. You're innocent until proven guilty. That's what we have in our laws. And however, that was all over the news last week. I do believe that there's going to be more to follow on that. And that was a big thing that happened last week. Again, innocent until proven guilty. I don't know what happened. I saw some petition signatures. Again, that's not my business. However, wanted to make sure we put that out there because that was a topic of conversation. And whatever happens, let's just make sure. Let's just keep up to date on it. And it says that in the report that he would be facing multiple felonies and misdemeanors if charged. So let's make sure we understand innocent until proven guilty. That was just some of the things that were talked about last week. In summary for last week, we remain a divided party between the Democrats and the DNC, as we know when we're talking about the budget. Hopefully that we can come to an agreement and fund the projects that we need to fund. And it's important that we do that. So education, teacher liability, public infrastructure, water, so on and so forth. We have to continue to make sure that we do these things properly. We get a good budget out of the Senate, and our responsibilities are met as a caucus. So going forward, I think I missed a slide. This week's agenda coming up. It's going to be a lot. As I said, we are going to be looking at the K through 12 funding growth that we are responsible for funding during the budget negotiation. We're going to be also looking at capital and public safety investments. So the capital projects that are in the budget, those are priorities of buildings, infrastructure around the state, and also making sure that there are no new taxes coming from the Senate with their budget. I got to tell you, we just can't do that, particularly in this day and age when money is tight with everybody. We need to make sure that there are no new taxes, and that is in the House budget. Again, Republicans in the House budget, we made it clear that we didn't want any new taxes. We made it clear in our small groups meetings. I made it clear in my meetings that I don't want any new taxes or increased government. And again, this budget actually did that. Now, as we continue to roll through this year, as I said, last week, the minority caucus, they weren't at when we voted for the budget, they weren't there. I've never seen that. It was a chamber full of Republicans. So if you look on the board, if you go to azledge.gov, you go to the archives video, you will see a House chamber with nothing but Republicans, and Democrats, they just weren't there. We'll continue to, as we go forward, talk about groundwater, talk about workers' compensations, death benefits, which was a Senator Gowan bill, SB 1157. We're going to continue to push through some of those bills. Some of those bills should be going to the governor, be at the governor's desk. Not sure when it made it. And again, revisiting the budget for next week. Some of the key bills in motion, as I said, SB 1530, groundwater storage and withdrawals. The House, we sent it back to the Senate for a reconsideration, and the Senate will likely weigh in again. All you need to do is just go to azledge.gov and you can pick that up. SB 1658, the animal cruelty bill, which is a Senator Bullock bill, and failure to treat. It's now moving through the Senate. So it went back from the House to the Senate, placed an amendment on it. The Senate has it now, and they're going to do what they can. It'll more than likely get out of the Senate and go up to the House. Now, there was a lot of contention on that bill, and I've read the bill several times, and they amended it and changed it and flipped it and did all kinds of stuff with it. And to me, it was just taking care of your animal. It's not big government coming in telling you what to do. It is actually making sure that animals are not being abused. I mean, and that's the bottom line. So people were getting wrapped around the axle with it. I would just, call your representative and just have them go through the bill and explain it to you. Again, we had another bill those bills that got transmitted out, as I said, burial costs and death benefits, SB 1156 and 57, a Senator Gowan bill, great legislator, good friend of mine. And I got to tell you, that's a great bill. I'm glad that he wrote it. And then SB 1405, mental health bill transitioned. It is now back in the Senate. So make sure you're keeping up with those bills. Ongoing budget negotiations. As I said, the session ends, or the deadline is fast approaching us. July 1, the fiscal year is fast approaching us. We have to make sure that we continue to negotiate in good faith so we can keep the lights on come July 1st. We don't want to close budget. What else to watch for? Committee votes. All you need to do, again, is go to azledge.gov. You will see the Appropriations Committee, which I am a part of. We'll have some more committee meetings. I don't know. We'll see. Check out the floor calendars, because that's where you can get the live action if you want, or go back and watch what happened, and you will continue to see the budget process. The bottom line, this week is all about advancing these bills through the committees and prepping for more floor actions. Now, this is going to be a brutal week for lawmakers. As I said, it's going to be a lot of negotiating. It's going to be going back and forth between the House and the Senate, and then all the while making sure that the executive is still in the mix, if you will, and agrees to the budget that is sent up to her desk. Again, check those calendars, www.azledge.gov. All you need to do is click on the floor calendar. You can see in real time what we are doing. If you are in my district, you can send me a message through my Ledge email if you have questions about anything that is going on this week, and I'll make sure that I get back to you and that I keep it up to date for you. So if you want to get in touch with me, all you need to do is go to some of my social websites. You can go to my Facebook at Walt Blackman. It's in the Snowflake page. I did copy and paste that right there, 15K followers. You can go to the Walt Blackman Show. You can also go to my campaign page. You can go to my Twitter, blackman4az.gov, and you can go to this right here. Now, let me turn this off really quickly. There we go. Got to stop sharing it. I want to, there we go, right there. I just want to let folks know that, you know, the reason why we do this, the reason why I do these legislative updates online again, is because it is tough to get around. It's a big district. It's a big district, and Dave and I, we work hard to get around and talk to people, and get in front of you, get in front of the PCs, and just get the word out. And that's what we try to do for these legislative updates. And again, it's a pleasure to be able to get the information out to you. Closing again, this week is going to be brutal for some people, particularly probably first-time lawmakers that are down there. They probably have not done an all-night session. Now, I'm not for all-night sessions for obvious reasons. When we vote all day and all night, then you tend to get tired. And I'm hoping next year that we kind of break it up, and so we can stay fresh and we can get things done. Let's see what else is going on. Again, if you have questions, comments, or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out and send me an email or send Representative Marshall an email. I'm at waltblackman@azledge.gov, and no, correction. I'm at wblackman@azledge.gov, and I do believe Dave's email is dmarshall@azledge.gov. You can go to those, send us an email if you have questions, comments, or concerns. In closing, I want to talk about an event that I try to do for the folks in the district. Now, one of my main focus is to get information out to people in LD7 and some of those people across the state if they want that information. How I do that is through a couple of ways. We have a newsletter that goes out twice a month. We have another one getting ready to come out. We also have this platform that we use, a live update once a week. And then what we do is we go out to the public in person and try to give some of these updates and talk to some of the constituents, PCs, if you will, talk to business leaders and just people in general to give them the information that they need. Because in the past, folks would say that people didn't come out, they didn't see them, they didn't talk to them. I got to tell you, it's pretty tough to do, not making an excuse of not being able to get to everybody, but we put these platforms out there because sure enough, somebody's going to say that we didn't come by, we didn't talk to them, we didn't return a call, so on and so forth. You got to understand, again, a huge district. I don't know how many emails or phone calls that Representative Marshall gets. I know that my assistant gets beat up every single day because we get hundreds of emails and she gets a significant amount of calls that she is responsible for handling, and my hat's off to her on that. And so it's pretty tough. So that's why we do these things. Also, I've had two so far, and oh no, correction, I've had one so far. It's called a mock session, and it's usually held on Fridays because we don't have any floor activity. Last Friday we did. And we had one scheduled for last Friday. We had some folks come in, but they couldn't go to the floor. However, they took a tour and they were in the gallery. I was able to go talk with them, with their sponsors. Representative Cruz was also part of that. She did a great job trying to put some of this stuff together. I do that on Fridays so people can come down and they can not just hear the process, but they can be part of the process. They can see the work that goes into debating and debating and getting these bills passed. Now, when some lawmakers do it, they will give them a bill like an ice cream bill or something like that. I got to be transparent with you. When I do mock sessions, I do not do bills. I give you current bills that are pressing issues. So the person that is sitting there going through the mock session goes through the process. I don't want a person to leave the mock session feeling like that they just passed an ice cream bill and it's all ruffles and fleurs and flowers and stuff like that. I give you tough bills, and it is a debate and it is a process. So when these PCs or people that are coming down to the Capitol to go through these mock sessions, they understand what is happening and what we go through, and the amount of sacrifice and dedication and the amount of negotiation you need to do to work for your district. Now, I'm not saying compromising your principles or compromising my conservative beliefs or ideology. However, it is not black and white. You just can't go down there and do this, yes or no, without hurting people in your district or without talking to people. And it's a great program. We do it on Fridays. If you want to bring a group down to the house to be able to take part in this, all you need to do, again, is contact me at wblackman@azledge.gov, and we'll get you set up, and we'll get you through that process. Everybody, I am Walt Blackman. Thanks for coming out, and thanks for listening to Legislative District 7 Update. We went a little quickly this time because we had to. I only got 30 minutes on that. I have a short attention span. So everybody, get in next week. We're going to try to do this next Saturday. If we can't do it Saturday again, it will be next week. We'll try to get it consistent. So Saturday or Sunday, you'll see it, you'll come out, and you'll participate in some of this. And in about 2 weeks, we're going to do a town hall here, and you'll be able to shoot Dave and I some questions about what went on this past session. We'll do a session wrap up, and we'll start talking about the campaign coming up, and it is coming up pretty fast here. Everybody, I'm Walt Blackman. Take care. God bless. Happy Father's Day. And remember, stay tuned and stay informed. So you're not part of the problem, but you are part of the solution. Take care, everybody.